Hi, I'm Liliana Partida, the nutritionist for the Center for New Medicine. Now today I'm going to show you some keto treats. Right now we're in a situation where I think trick-or-treating has been canceled. So why not make it fun? We don't need to take the joy out of the holidays. And so what I was thinking would be really cool would have maybe 6 to 12 of your friends and all agree to make a keto treat. And then you can do a drive-by trick-or-treat and you feel safe because they've all been you've been in a COVID-friendly mindset. And in that way, the children can still have great joy over this wonderful holiday. And you won't have kids bouncing off the wall because it's not laden with the tons of sugar as normally. We always cringe at Halloween time because we want our kids to enjoy it. But at the same time, we're really monitoring how much they can have because we don't want them to go into the glycemic spin or spinning off the walls as they usually can do. So we're going to start out making some pumpkin keto muffins. Now these are going to be light and fluffy, and so I'm going to go ahead and start making the little cream cheese frosting that'll go on top. It won't be your typical frosting because normally your frosting goes on after you bake it. But since we want these to be friendly treats to take in the car, we were going to do a little drive-by, we don't want that icing on there to create a problem. So we're going to bake the icing inside the muffin. So we're going to start out with 3 ounces of cream cheese. Now I'm using a cream cheese that has a little teeny bit less carbohydrates than your normal cream cheese. And it's this cream cheese that we see right in front there. And it's great. It still tastes the same. Maybe it's got a little less, it's actually moving the same amount of fat. So again, since keto is all about satisfaction, and that satisfaction comes from those little extra calories of fat. So I've got a third of cream cheese, and then I've got about 1.5 tablespoons of Lakanto. Now I love Lakanto as a sweetener because first of all, it's super low on the glycemic index. And there's just really a crazy, wonderful story about it. And so it was actually in, why is it called monk fruit? Because it was discovered by the monks in Tibet. And they began to use it for medicinal properties. So they started utilizing this as a sweetener, but also as a tincture as well. So how can you go wrong if it's from the Buddhists and it's used actually as a medicinal property? So the monk fruit is very low in carbohydrates. It's got erythritol, which is non-GMO, and it's going to have the monk fruit itself in it. So it's kind of, I would say maybe even twice as sweet as a normal sugar. So you don't need as much in regards to baking. So I'm going to put 1.5 tablespoons in there. Now again, you can taste it for sweetness. So again, we want these kids to be having a great time, not jumping off the wall. Meanwhile, I'm going to go ahead and start melting the butter. So I've got 2 tablespoons of organic butter. We'll let that cook up a little bit. Now you want to keep the cream cheese nice and soft so that it's very easy to whip this up. And I would suggest doing that first, and that way you don't have to wash out this bowl and you can just pile everything else in there afterward. Now I thought it might be kind of fun to just make a little color to this cream cheese. And so I'm going to try to make an orange out of it using food coloring, non-toxic food coloring that is red and yellow. And let's see if we can get a nice little orange in there. So I'm going to put a little bit more yellow than I am red in this. Now my husband's an artist and I was trying to get to this color yesterday and he said, oh, you got to use a whole lot more yellow. So let's try that first. Then I'll throw a little red in there. Won't need as much. But I just thought this was kind of fun. Now, if you're making them for everyday use, you might not want to add the coloring, but this is a festive time, so let's be very playful. I'm just going to scrape down the edges here to get all that nice coloring in there. It looks pretty. Already starting to get a nice little color to it. So a bit more yellow because it looks like it could just add a little bit more flair to this. It's pretty, but almost looks a little like needs a little bit more vitality. So let's see that. Starting to get a nice little color. I'm going to go ahead and turn off that butter in just a second. Now I've added about 6 or 7 drops of the yellow. So I think that's good enough on the orange as we're going to get it. We don't need much of this because this is just going to go in the topping just in the center as a baking. All right, I'm going to go ahead and set this down. I think that is perfect. Okay, let's scrape all of this off. Now normally if you were going to frost cupcakes, which I love to do too, you could make a cream cheese frosting just like I'm making right now. Actually, there's one thing I'm going to add to this is a little teeny bit of whipping cream. Forgot to add that ingredient. That's just the beautiful thing about cooking, is that even if you make a mistake 99% of the time, it still comes out good. But we're just going to add just a teeny bit of whipping cream here, tablespoon. And then it'll just get a little better stirring factor. And I'm going to go to the fridge and grab it. Now in keto, we use a lot of good healthy fats, and this happens to be one of them because honestly, this is like liquid butter. There is no carbohydrates and no protein to it, so I utilize it a lot, and especially when I'm baking sauces. Oh, I think we got probably a tablespoon right there. Okay. Just stir that around. Now when I put this cream in here, it actually a little bit white in there, so I'm going to drop just a tad more of red in there. And really, this is fun. Do this with the kids. They'll have a great time playing it. I mean, you might end up with all kinds of funny color in there, but you know what? They'll have a super great time. And that's what the holidays are all about. It's all about, getting together and, having the surprise of all the excitement that's going to go on. And especially for kids, they love that. So we don't want them to deprive them of that. And us as parents, we can get a lot of joy out of our children, having a great, great holiday season. All right, I believe that is beautiful enough. My girlfriend Tamara in Oregon, she's having a drive-through Halloween. So she gave me that idea. I thought that's fantastic. Now, wouldn't it be even fun if you guys decorated the outside of your house? Or I was thinking as I was on my bike ride this morning, how fun it would be to scare kids. Isn't that what Halloween is all about? So you guys can all plan that maybe when they drive up into your driveway, they've got to turn off their lights. And then maybe someone is in the garage and you're dressed up all scary. If you can't get scary enough, get a mask. And then, have them, come out with you can come out with a flashlight or have them turn on the bright lights and there you are and shout and watch how much fun they have. And so that's what it's all about, is just making sensation out of Halloween because that's what all of the costumes are all about, the sensation of those costumes. So we're going to go ahead and start to make the actual muffin mix. Now we're going to start off with 5 eggs. These are actually, pasteurized eggs, so make sure you get good eggs. Now I also have a really great vegan recipe that we did not too long ago on our Facebook page, and that is the vegan chocolate chip cookie. So that's another great treat. So if you're organizing this kind of drive-through thing, talk about who's making what. Keto brownies, keto chocolate chip cookies, keto muffins, all kinds of fun things. So you as adults, you can enjoy this as well. All right, so we've got 5 eggs there. I've got 1.5 cup of Lakanto, so I'm gonna go ahead and put that in now. Whip that thing up. Okay, so now we've got the eggs and we've got the Lakanto, so we're going to just get it nice and creamy, kind of yellowish. I've got the butter already melted, and we're going to have 1/2 cup of coconut oil and 2 tablespoons of butter. Now you can also use, I'm just going to scrape down the edges there. Now you can also use the MCT oil, which is a coconut oil that stays liquefied. I use it for salad dressings a lot, but since you're baking, this might not be a bad idea when you're trying to get a little bit of accuracy and you don't want to melt more than you need. So I like to use this one here, which is the liquid one, which is great, organic as well. Or you can just use the simple, coconut oil. Either way is good. Great. Now let's go ahead and add the pumpkin. Now I've got organic pumpkin, so you can just get it at the health food store. I got this at Sprouts, and it's going to be 1 cup. Don't get the one that's already pre-mixed, made to put it with all the spices in it, because you want to add your own here. We're going to add a tablespoon and a half of pumpkin spice. That seems like a lot, but honestly, it just gives it that really nice pumpkin-y, fall flavor. Beautiful. Now, normally, with the winter squashes, they're not so keto friendly, but pumpkin actually has a lot of fiber, so it actually is keto friendly, unlike a yam. So we are going to add the coconut. Let's add the little vanilla here. So we're going to add about a tablespoon of vanilla. Or actually, really it says 2 teaspoons, so I just put a tablespoon in there. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and add our dry ingredients now. So this is the coconut flour. And I like coconut flour because oftentimes in the keto recipes, everything's almond. And then what happens is we get an allergy towards almonds. And so when you're doing keto, it's good to rotate your nuts especially. Don't just do almond milk all the time, maybe macadamia and hemp milk, any of those, switching them around, coconut milk. And that way the body's immune system doesn't start attacking those foods because you've eaten over and over again. So I did that, with when I first started. Everything was almond flour, almond milk, almond this, and the next thing you know, I've got an almond allergy. So I love rotating my nut flours and my nut milk. So when it's got coconut in there, I think, oh, great, because I know I've had a sensitivity to almond. Okay, let's get this going. I'm going to go ahead and add we're going to have a little bit of baking powder. Now remember, not baking soda. And so this is about a teaspoon. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in now with the dry ingredients. We're going to go ahead and put a teaspoon of salt in there as well. Half a teaspoon, actually. Okay, let's get this going. Actually, I need to add my 1.5 or half a cup. So I melted that butter, and this is a little bit more than 2 tablespoons, but who cares? Because if I need 1/2 cup and 2 tablespoons of this nice, beautiful fat oil mixture, then if I have a little bit more butter, it'll just taste a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the liquid, to make it a lot easier to be able to see what I've got in here. It might be helpful if I take the lid part off. So to be quite honest with you, you want to add this oil when you're doing the eggs and the butter. So it's easy to forget things. So again, follow the recipe very carefully. We'll add 2 more tablespoons because that's what we needed, 1/2 cup and 2 tablespoons. Okay, they look pretty darn good. This is why these are so nice and light and fluffy, because we've got a lot of good fats in there and not too much flour, so they're going to be just terrific. Give it one more little swirl. All right, there we go. Now I usually just scoop this in with a ice cream scooper. You know, and I fill them up kind of full down. Remember coconut flour, almond flour, they're not going to rise as much as even a gluten-free flour. So I kind of fill them up a little bit more than normally that cupcakes would be full too. Because we want them to peer their little heads over their little suit here. And we're not having them frosting to be actually frosting that we're frosting them with. So you can go ahead and fill them up. And there'll be plenty of this dough to do it. Okay, and all the stuff you peeled on the side, you can just scoop it into the one that's a little lesser than the others. Don't have to be perfect when you're cooking. That's the fun part about it. You can just have fun. So let's just take a little scoop of this nice little frosting now. It's not totally orange like the orange shirt I have on, but you know what? It's pretty, and I think they're gonna really find it delicious at the same time. Let's plop a little bit of that on there. I have to use your finger to get it off a little easier. Yeah, I remember trick-or-treating. We used to trick-or-treat with pillowcase bags. We could get so much candy. And we'd sit on the floor. You know, I have 10 brothers and sisters, and we'd lay all our candy out and we'd start swapping. You know, I would love those almond joys and, you know, honeycomb, things of that nature. And we would have a great time while we were Halloween trick-or-treating, and when we came home to barter and see who could get what we could exchange with. Back then, I don't think my parents regulated the amount of that candy we could eat. So I think probably we had 1 week of complete chaos in the home with 10 kids. Can you imagine them all sugar loaded? But we had a great time. Loved Halloween. We had so many places to go trick-or-treat because we just lived out in the country, and you know, everybody made a big deal out of it. So take a toothpick and then just swirl it around. I kind of pull it out to the edges, kind of like stir it and then give it a little swirl. And they stay so moist. You're gonna just love them. You're gonna love them for just kind of everyday little keto treats. Doesn't have to be Halloween. You know, when we cook, it's all about love. And to me, if we can still have all of the emotional treats that we're looking for to keep our brain happy and make us feel like we're not in a deprivation mindset, but we're in a healthy lifestyle, then why wouldn't we eat this way? And my goodness, I think we consume 150 pounds of sugar a year. That's crazy. Our ancestors, oh my gosh, they didn't even know what that looked like. So it's really not what we would consider natural to the body. Sugar feeds all kinds of opportunistic organisms. So when we can make keto treats for our children, it's probably always the healthiest way to do it anyway. A lot of people are gluten intolerant, And so this makes it really simple. Everyone can enjoy, even those people who have some intolerance to gluten. Okay, so there we go. We're gonna pop these into the oven and they should be ready. I've got the oven at 300, and just depending on your oven, check them at 18 minutes, then come back around and then you wanna stick a toothpick in the middle. If it comes out nice and clean, they're ready. But probably 18 to 20, 23 minutes, somewhere right around in there, okay? And then we're gonna go ahead and get started with our second treat. Now, I love nuts, and so I always tell my patients that in between their meals, if they're hungry, to have some nuts. Raw nuts is always best. If they're a little salted, that's okay too, because they're not gonna create such an insulin response that, let's just say, a bar might, or candy in and of itself might. And so today we're going to have a little twist on our keto nuts. We're going to make them fun for the Halloween. And so we're going to make one that is going to be a chocolate covered nut. Now, not like your typical chocolate covered nut that you would see that's coated quite thick and oftentimes not really even a good healthy chocolate. But we're going to use pecans or walnuts, either one, because they've got grooves. And so in those grooves, the chocolate will settle just nicely, just enough to give you that treat mindset, but not too much. And then we're going to sweeten it up with a sweetener that I love called Agave 5. There's another one out there called allulose, but I like the Agave 5 a lot better. Sometimes it's very hard to find in the grocery store, so just going on to Thrive Market and ordering it online would be a really great go on that. And I usually get like 4 or 5 of them at a time because I use them for anything that I want to have a really low liquid syrup, like Partida margaritas, for example. So when you're out there setting up for your trick or treat, you guys can put your lawn chairs out there, your chairs out there, and have your nice little Partida margarita and pass out these wonderful little treats to all of your children's friends when they drive up. So I'm going to pop these in. Okay, let's get started with these nuts. Now I'm going to start off with the cashews. Now normally cashews, they're the highest sugar of all the nuts, but they're not terrible. They're still a nut, but they don't have the fiber that the other nuts have. But again, they are very rich and delicious. And a lot of times what I use these on is when I make Asian food and I'm doing like a cabbage Thai salad. These go on just perfectly. So we're gonna make these kind of savory, sweet, and a little bit of chili too. And so you guys can experiment and have fun. So I'm just gonna throw these in, just dry roast, just like that. Now I'm going to use a 1/3 cup of coconut amino acids. So again, it has a little higher of carbohydrates than your regular gluten-free tamari, but I'm going to use a little bit of both. But even so, it will not hold the impact of a candy bar, that is for sure. So I'm going to let them dry just a teeny bit there. Keep my nuts in the freezer just so that they stay nice and fresh because they are a fat. You don't want them to go rancid on you. So this is approximately about 6 tablespoons. Okay, so let's have a look. And I'm going to put about 2 tablespoons of gluten-free tamari on there as well. And these are so easy to make, and they're quite expensive in the health food store, so definitely I would say this would be a good way to go. Now let's make it a little fun, and let's add a little teeny bit of chipotle. Now I like it having a little kick in it. If you wanted to have it a little sweeter, you can leave these out, but I find that this is lovely and everyone loves it. Now you could even be a little courageous and do a little bit of garlic powder on there as well. So again, I love savory nuts. I think they're great and they satisfy so many Ayurvedic pleasures of the brain. We always want that salty, crunchy, that sweet. So this is going to have all of that in there. So all I'm trying to do really is to have this mixture dry onto the nut. And then I'm gonna put them in the oven at about 200 degrees for maybe like 20 to 30 minutes, just so that they pick up that nice crunch again. Now the beautiful thing about this is these last nicely for 10 days. They don't ever last that long, but they do last really nicely in a glass jar or a nice container that's airtight. Now you don't want to overcook them, you just want to get it so that it's all completely dry, all the liquid is completely dry off of it. I'm going to give it a little taste just to see if it's got enough little kick there with that little chipotle seasoning. I think it's going to add a little bit more. Here we go. Let's make them fun. Let's make these for the adults too, so they can have a good Halloween. This is a great little treat to take to work. You know, instead of bringing all the processed cookies and desserts, this makes it so much nicer. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put these on a sheet. You want to spread them out so they can dry beautifully. I'm just going to leave them like that. Ariana, will you grab me the butter out of the refrigerator? It's on the side. Oh. Doesn't matter which one? Any? Okay, so let's start out with a generous amount of butter. This is grass-fed butter. And a little bit more fat to fat, that's okay, just so long as it's not bacon fat, right? We do keto friendly, but we don't do keto inflammatory, which is just not into all that bacon. And we got to watch the dairy as well, but this is perfect. So about 2 tablespoons in there. I'll let that melt, and I'm going to put the pecans in there. As I said, you could use walnuts as well. I always get a little panic when I start running out of this agave 5 because I love it so much and use it so often. Since we have a tequila company, that it's always good to have that really low syrup so that you can make yourself a keto margarita once in a while. Now I'm going to add some cinnamon. And the pumpkin spice. Where's my cinnamon? So we're just going to sprinkle a generous amount on there. I'm going to say like a teaspoon. I'm also going to add a little chipotle to these too, because I just find it, the little bit of chipotle and the sweetness, the chocolate, ooh, it really brings out the chocolate flavor in there. So I put in probably about 1/4 teaspoon, but again, you to your liking. I'm gonna go ahead and add the chocolate. Now about 1.5 tablespoons. You can kind of just see, you can taste it and see how chocolatey you want it. All I want to do is coat these. So I'm even going to take them off the heat for a moment. See if I've got enough chocolate on there to make them fun. I'm going to add probably about 2 tablespoons of the agave 5. And again, you can just taste them, correct them. Perfect. I'm also going to add just a little teeny bit of salt, because then you've got all this flavor. You've got the sweet, you've got the salt, you've got the chili. Oh, your brain just goes crazy over all these flavors. So when you have all of the Ayurvedic flavors, it's very satisfying to the body and you don't need more. So why not make these treats, as I said, on a regular basis, so you just have them handy. Never get that urge of, I need to treat myself. And I don't think treating myself for me is processed cookies. And so this would be a real treat for me. Beautiful. Okay, now I'm going to add a little teeny bit of salt to this. Now I like the flaked salt. I'm going to give a little taste of one of these too. A little bit of the flaked salt on there for fun. You don't really need to cook them anymore. All you want to do is make sure that all the liquid got absorbed nicely and they're all beautifully coated. Oven at 200 for about 30 minutes, I'd say. Don't overdo it, because they can burn on you. Believe me, I've had a few burn on me if I wasn't paying attention, so put the timer on there. But you just kind of want to, like, see, these are already starting, as soon as they're starting to get cold, they're already starting to harden up nicely. So even when you put them in the oven and you check them, they're a little soft. Right around 20-30 minutes, I'd probably take them out because they'll harden perfectly. All right, let's put these in the oven. So let's have a look at the finished product now. So here are the beautiful keto buns. They're just awesome. And so if we want to make them even more interesting and fun, I'm going to show you a way to do that. But let's go ahead and get out the rest of the treats now so you can see what they look like, and I'll taste them for you so you can know what they taste like. Beautiful, nice and crunchy. They've been stuck together nicely. You could almost practically make a granola out of all these things here. And then these are just beautiful. Let's have a taste. So you've got just that little hint of that kind of bitter of the chocolate, a little bit of sweet, a little bit of chipotle to bring up a little bit of, not too much fire, but just enough. Okay, let me show you how you can package these up. Now, if you want to be super generous, okay, you can get these little jars and you can go ahead and add a little pack in there, a little variety there. Now, this would be great to give to someone as a gift at work. It'd be just awesome. They would just love you for it because it's already packaged in a nice jar. And it's airtight. And you get these cool little bags. How much fun is this? You can put that in there. Kind of like a little coffee bag. Kind of fold the edges in there. Tuck them down. There's all kinds of really cool bags, but this was just one that I found at the grocery store. I thought was kind of fun. Okay, so we got that little there. Then we could say, okay, well, how about cupcakes? Now, this depends on how generous you want to be too, but 2 little cupcakes fit in here beautifully. His and hers. Oh yes, but we want to have a little fun with this. We can add a little bit, And you can even do this with them in here. There's a little teeny bit of decoration on there, which is always so cute too. Kids love it. Kids are always in wonderment. That's one thing that adults lose, is that wonderment. So tap into your child's wonderment this Halloween and just enjoy the laughter and the joy that you see in their face. It brings all these beautiful endorphins to keep your immune system nice and healthy. So there you go. Here's your keto drive-through treats, and I hope you have a great Halloween.